It just doesn't make sense. If your attorney did not ask you those questions, did not seek to do that on their own, and have those things tested and look at the police reports, and if it wasn't included in the police reports and you didn't ask about it in the police reports, you did not do your job.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just ain't real life street stars. You know what time it is.
Can we switch topics to Tory real quick? I just got to ask a question about this Tory Lanez case, bro. Because Tory Lanez came out.
Man, you're going to get me kicked out of Houston. For all my people in Houston, man, he asked me this question. I'm just answering it based on my legal knowledge and what I know is not anything personal.
It's not personal, baby.
It's not personal. So I still need to go to the Timmy Chan's and Frenchie's. So don't block me out.
So Tory Lanez comes out. Number one, he sends a text message to Jason Lee and says, I was protecting a black woman. I didn't want to tell on her. Kelsey really is the one that shot Megan, right? So the first thing that came to my mind was, well, Kelsey did get immunity. Why didn't he just say that, right? There's a lot of people saying, why didn't you just say that? Number two, they're coming out and they're saying that there's new evidence that's showing that he didn't have any gunpowder on his hand. There's no DNA on the gun. Number one, is any of that true?
I find it hard to believe that that's true and it wasn't used in the first trial. I mean, because at that point, you have reason for the judges or for an appellate court to have this case retried. It just doesn't make sense. If your attorney did not ask you those questions, did not seek to do that on their own, and have those things tested and look at the police reports, and if it wasn't included in the police reports and you didn't ask about it in the police reports, you did not do your job.
So it's two things, right? Wouldn't he have, well, I guess he wasn't on the stand, right? But doesn't perjury come into this? I mean, Meg flat out said, Tory shot me. He's flat out saying, Kelsey shot him. Kelsey went on the stand and just pled the fifth. You know, what do you make of all this? Number one, we're still confused as to what happened, right? It still sounds like, what the hell? It still feels like Tory's trying to win the public opinion versus the actual sentence. So he actually he's put in jail because of the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, right?
Right.
So if his hand is not if he really has new evidence, right, that's showing that it's not, can he get out? What is the process for him to get out?
So at that point, you have to take, because I've done this we did this on a 20 or 30-year rape case in which, you take the new evidence and then you submit that to the Court of Appeals and you show them why this case should be remanded and sent back and retried based on the fact, or just outwardly dismissed. And that's kind of what happens with the Innocent Project. When you see these guys who've served all these, or women who served all these years in prison, and they didn't have DNA available at the time. And then when they did the DNA from the actual kit that was used, and it doesn't match the person that they have in jail, then at that point, that information is then sent to an appeals court. That court then sees the new evidence and sends it back to the original court to say, okay, you deal with this. There wasn't enough, or there's new information that shows that you need to deal with this all over again. And a lot of times when you do that, prosecutors, you really have to have the prosecutor on board in order to get something like that done. In this case, they're not going to have the prosecutor on board, but they're definitely going to have to show that there was some evidence that was not provided to them based on the Michael Morton Act, in which the state is supposed to turn over everything to them, regardless of if it's harmful to the state's case or not. They have to turn over everything. If they didn't do that, then at that particular point, you have grounds for appeal for prosecutorial misconduct.
When not snitching goes wrong. Right. if he gets overturned, could Megan be charged?
They rarely. There's a hard and fast unwritten rule that rarely do victims charged. They just don't do it.
Even if they lie?
They don't do it. You got to think about it. Maybe 2002, 2003, there was a teacher in Rockwall, Texas, that was accused by 3 high school young women of sexual assault or sexual misconduct. He was fired, he was arrested, and before he was convicted, it came out that it wasn't true. I think one of the young women came forward, and it basically, the whole story unraveled, and this guy lost everything. And there is nothing to come back from on situations like this.
That seems like that's a chink in the armor of the law.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think Jay-Z sued Tony Busby and the victim that eventually dismissed their case.
Because that hurt Jay-Z.
It hurt Jay-Z, but at the same time, your recourse is to sue in civil court the people who harmed you. I mean, even perjury is so unlikely because a judge has to do that. And most judges don't do it. They don't do it. I had a case where this woman lied about, I paid and I gave $10,000 and this and I did that and did this and did that. And it was a simple eviction case. And she said she did all these things and the judge recessed it. And so the woman could go get her evidence and she left. Right? And so we end up getting what we wanted, but she perjured herself on the stand and the judge didn't do anything about it. And it was egregious.
Damn. A lot of people are going to say, why didn't Tory just get on the stand and say that? Like, why didn't he just say?
Counsel, you have to be very careful when you put your client up, because when you put your client up, once you open that door, there's no closing that door, right? So if you knew your significant other did some things that you two know about, but you don't want anybody else to know about, you don't put them on the stand, because you might put them on the stand to ask them a simple question like, did they make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on Saturday? But then at that point, the door is open for me to ask any and everything that I feel is relevant to proving your credibility.
Objection.
Sustained.
Yeah.
No, man, it's like, I don't know, watching these court cases, it's just crazy, man. We're a week in to Diddy's thing, man. What do you predict the next 3 weeks are going to be? Because they say it's going to be 8-week trial. So what do you predict? I mean, we're already kind of getting some crazy stuff week 1. What do you predict can happen?
I'm thinking we're going to start looking at days, if not weeks, or week of financial transactions. I think we're going to get maybe an expert or two to talk about Cassie's mental state. We're going to have the 2 alleged sex trafficking individuals, if we already haven't had one. And we're going to talk to experts as to the whole transportation portion of the act. And so I think they're going to lay it out to get to the conclusion that I said early on, that Cassie is not the victim. She's an unwilling co-conspirator.
When Diddy, he put up the hearts to Cassie, like, I love you, and stuff. Would you have told him, like, hey, man, don't do that?
Man, I lost a case. I lost a trial because I did something that I normally don't do. I tried the case by myself without co-counsel and someone to watch my client. And so I had 3 police officers got each one of them to say that they lied. Got each one of them to tell a story that the other one lied. Got a civilian witness who said she saw the whole thing from the very beginning and got her to admit that she was in the bathroom, saw a commotion up front, and pushed her way through a NCAA tournament crowd at a bar to get outside so she can see what's going on. So you didn't see it from the very beginning. Got all of that done. And the bailiff said, man, your guy lost the case for you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, when you had them up there and you were ripping them apart, when they were lying, when the state was asking them questions, they were lying. He said, man, he looked like the most scariest dude ever. He was angry. He was clenching his fist. He was making faces, and he was doing all these things, right? And then when you came back, then he was kind of celebrating and smiling. And he said, and you could tell the jury was no longer looking at the witness. They spent their whole time looking at your client.
Right.
And I was like, this dude. So your client's mannerisms, and we talked about it before.
Right.
You want them to stay basically stone-faced, not worried, not excited. You don't want a whole lot of hand movements. You don't want a whole lot of tales as far as how they feel the case is going. You want them to just sit there and you want the case to be the case. And so him making a heart sign feeds into what? He's egotistical, narcissistic. Because who the hell does that to someone that they allegedly have actually beat the hell out of
Right.
and allegedly forced to have sex? You don't do that. That's not normal.
His hair is gray now.
Right.
Right. Do you think that the gray hair helps him or hurts him?
I think that they don't have hair products in jail. I don't think they have hair products in jail.
Right.
So I think that is what it is.
You think if this was televised, that there would be different opinions going on in the media? Or you think?
No. I think that everyone has formed an opinion based off their own personal experience. If you are, a person of faith and you married your high school sweetheart and you've never been with anyone else, these type of acts
Are crazy.
shock your senses to the point where you can't get over